Well, a very good morning to you. It is 4:44. Can you believe it? A Simon and Ian special. Simon and Ian for all you wide awake people. You'll realise a glorious anagram of hello, Roy. See, look at over you coming. There we are. I was just saying, Roy, this is a Simon and Ian special, because a lot of people were complaining about insomnia. And Simon and Ian is, of course, an anagram of that. So what are you doing, Roy? What are you doing up at this time in the morning? It is glorious to see you. It is all fun. It's always a joy. You're joining me here on my walk. I seem to walk a lot these days, don't I? Early morning walk right here around Regent's Park. You are very, very welcome. And what a beautiful day it was. Good morning, Frank. How are you? Lovely to see you. You're joining me here in the glorious Regent's Park on a fine Saturday as we come to the end of June. Yesterday was quite a special day. We went around London with my BG, and I was joined by literally thousands of people around the world who had a chance to witness some of the sights and sounds of London. Roy's been working on his website. I'll go over and have a look at that since 3 a.m. Oh, what's the URL, Roy? I can give you a shout out, and the millions of people around the world will be able to come and give you your fantastic feedback on Roy's website. What I love about these morning shows is that it gives a chance to get us ready for the day, to talk about the exciting things that are coming up, not just on the show, but also the exciting things that are changing in the world, like the 2-meter rule. That's going to be changing on Independence Day on the 4th of July. And what's going to happen? This is a park, not a toilet or a rubbish bin. It's so helpful in that sort of artistic way. What I particularly like at this time in the morning is the bird song, because that is the perfect way to wake up. The sound of London. So whatever you're doing today, I hope you have a fantastic start. The thrill of the last week and a bit has been quite exciting. We've done a number of journeys throughout London just to have a look and see what's opening up. And you would have seen, if you are regular, you would have seen that we pop on to a number of the shops. We speak to the shopkeepers, see what's sort of going on. So on a couple of days ago, on the 25th of June, we went on a very special Bee Gees tour. I was with RJ Gibb, albeit socially distanced, and RJ, together with Mike Reed, the legendary DJ, and we walked around London, and we had a look at some of the sites connected to the Bee Gees. You can check that out on Octopus TV. So if you haven't had a chance, do go and subscribe to Octopus on YouTube. We're also available on Dailymotion and virtually every platform that ever there was, and even some that aren't. And so what we did, we went on a fantastic tour of London. We started at IBC Studios, where Lonnie Donegan recorded My Old Man's a Dustman. And RJ told me that the Bee Gees actually recorded a cover version of that. Looking forward to seeing that. He's sometimes known to tease his audience. But this is a theatre exit. We always talk about theatres. And yesterday I had the impresario, his son, and rather part of the dynasty, and probably the most powerful dynasty in showbiz, which were the Grades and the Belfonts. And we had the fantastic Ian Friedman came on the show, and he spoke about his uncle, Lou and Leslie Grade, and they were iconic in the business. Legends, complete legends, came over from Russia, lived in abject poverty for several years. And what happened? Morning, Roberta. Nice to see you. How are you? And so they lived in abject poverty for several years before basically they started making their way through show business, and they became one of the most powerful dynasties ever. One of the most powerful dynasties in show business. The Grades Leslie and Lew Grade, who were at the birth of independent television, who were at the birth, the golden age of theatre, the golden age of artists, the golden age of everything to do with the entertainment world. And also Bernie Delfont, we talked about him as well. And a fantastic interview which we're going to be releasing at 7:07 this morning. We love our numbers, don't we, here? You know, we got up, started this morning at 4:44. It's time we have an early morning walk. It's enough being in bed. I've called this one, for those who spotted, the Simon and Ian special. And the Simon and Ian special is simply because it's an anagram. Prizes for the first person. It's an anagram. Simon and Ian special. First person in the comments who can work out the anagram, you win the prize. And the prize has yet to be determined, other than another walk early in the morning. But Simon and Ian special, that's the anagram for this morning. Write in and tell me all your wonderful thoughts. You just notice the lights, shows how wonderful this is. The lights have just gone off on my little walk, which means that London is starting to open up. And as it starts to open up, it's a glorious moment, 4:50 in the morning. So yesterday I had Ian Friedman on. As I say, he is part of the most powerful dynasty in entertainment, the Grades and the Belfonts. And they used to look after, in the olden days, things like such as London management would look after some of the most brilliant talent. And he was recounting stories of Des O'Connor, or some of the biggest stars in the world, and the tragic circumstances of Judy Garland. And what Judy, when she did her last performance ever at Talk of the Town here in London, now the London Hippodrome. And Judy had a troubled life, a real talent, but a real troubled life as well. This is St John's Lodge, and a beautiful place for those who've joined me before, for meditation, for sitting in the quiet of their glorious garden. And we can just hear the bird song, which, as I say, is the perfect, literally the dawn chorus here on the Andrew Eborn show, right in the heart of London. Yesterday there were quite a few storms. A lot of people, when they joined me, they say, join me for the sunrise, but the reality was that the storms hit, and many people were sort of turning around and saying, good heavens, it's quite a morning, and quite a morning indeed it was. If you are just joining me, thank you very much. You are here on the inner park of Regent's Park as we wake up to the world live and exclusive here on Octopus TV. And it's been quite a journey, quite a thrill actually, because this week we've done lots of new things we never normally try, and that's what I love, is that we like to try new things. We can turn around and say, okay, got a few people watching, so we'll make this make sense. And that's everything from turning around ridiculously early in the morning to get people going, to saying, okay, let's set up these specific tours of London. And yesterday I was with Mike Reed, the legendary DJ, and we went through London again, and we had a look at various things, which was quite exciting. We looked at a number of special places, iconic, connected in one way or another to the Bee Gees. And what we realised is that London, virtually every corner, turn a different corner, and it becomes a real thrill, because you're discovering parts of the world which a lot of people take for granted. You get to see firsthand exactly what's going on. And what I love about it as well is that sort of principle where whatever happens, we can be part of it. We can be live and exclusive here on Octopus TV. And what I love is taking you all forward. All of you are sort of sending in your views. You're sending in some places to go and visit, people to interview. And the thrill of that is that we get to see people we would not normally talk to. So yesterday we've had my good chums have been coming on the show, and yesterday we had Ian Friedman. That'll be released at 7:07, and he was talking about his fantastic history, how he basically grew up in one of the most powerful dynasties in entertainment, the Belfonts and the Grades, Leslie and Lou Grade, famous big cigar, larger than life character, who appeared, played by Michael Gambon, in the movie Judy. And we looked at Bernie was played by Michael Gambon, and we looked at the story of Judy and just how tragic it was that you could have these fantastic superstars and they can be twisted and torn up inside because the pressures on being in an industry which requires you to be out there all the time performing, always on, is quite tricky. If you're joining us at the moment, the park is slowly opening up. It normally opens at 5 in the morning. You see that little peak of the gate there. This gate is still well and truly locked. But down there is the Broadway, and the Broadway leads all the way down to the top of Primrose Hill. I can take you there for a morning. If you'd like to stay with us, you're very, very welcome. You're joining me now on my morning walk through London. That's how I normally get started for the day. And it's lovely to see so many people here, because the thrill of this sort of side is that, well, we sort of, good morning, there you are, Elizabeth. We were wondering what was happening to you. Always a joy. Well, you're joining me live and exclusively here in the centre of London. And Mark is watching as well. Hello, there we go, Elizabeth. Wave to all of you. Hurrah, hurrah. John Morton's watching. Good heavens. Morning, John. What a thrill. You're joining me bright and breezy. We started early this morning. What we do, we don't normally have any particular set time, but anything we would go for. So 4:44 this morning, and I called it the Simon and Ian special. And it's an anagram, not a very difficult anagram, but it suddenly occurred to me. Somebody said, I'm not even going to use the word because it will give it away. They said, anybody else up? And I thought, well, go on, have a look at the word. And what I love is a little bit of playfulness, a little bit of mischievousness. And the Simon and Ian special, one of you will crack the hardest anagram to do at this time of the morning. What would you call somebody who gets up at 4:44? Apart from a bit weird, it's got to be good. Anyway, so yesterday was a very special day. We re-recorded with Mike Reed and myself. We've done a special version. We did the Marcel Marceau version of one of these walks with the Bee Gees. So we took you around in silence for the first bit, and then Mike and I talked about the various places that we visited. And that's available now on Octopus. We talked about the IBC, the club and recording studio. It started off as an independent radio station and then became an iconic recording station around the world. And many artists recorded there. Many of the great, the good and the unwashed from the music industry recorded at the studios, including Lonnie Donegan, who did My Old Man's a Dustman. The Who recorded Tommy there. I'm sharing you right now, Andrew. I'll be with you in a tad. There we are. Elizabeth is fantastic because Elizabeth is just the other side of the pond over there in the States, and always a regular to this show, nice and bright and breezy. And you join us. There we are. Shared the video, and you're joining me. What I love about this show is that we get people from all around the world, and all around the world can join us right here, right now, in the heart of London. As London is opening up, I'm Andrew Eborn, and it is so good to see you on this fine Saturday. And what we try and do is to take people on a little journey throughout London to show them what it's really like to live in the heart of London. And also to show what it's really like to be waking up in one of the finest cities in the world with some of the finest people, and joined by some of my finest Facebook friends. Always a joy. And if you just spot a little bit of London, it gives you an appetite for what's possible without having to spend a penny, because the reality is you can, difficult times I know for everybody, you can enjoy a lot of life for things which are free. And some of the waking up early in the morning is, for me, one of the joys. You set ourselves right with me and just a few million people watching around the world, is we have a chance to appreciate the finer things in life. And as we're all resetting and turning around and saying, here we go, this is what is important, I think you find that life can be a lot better. And I think we spend too much time focusing on the negative, and we've been through an extraordinary time recently, and we will go through more extraordinary times. History always repeats itself. It's as I say, and I think what I try to do here is to give you that breath of fresh air, as Elizabeth says. And one of the breath of fresh air at the moment is this 2-metre rule, which they've had in London for some time. I know it's different around the world. I've been speaking to lots of people around the world, and what we basically are doing here is to review that. And as I predicted live on this show not so long ago, is that the 2-metre rule is going to be slashed here in London. And in order to encourage people to come back to retail, to encourage people to have a look at going to the cinema, have a look at going to the theatres, we'll talk about those in a bit, but have a look at the cinemas and the restaurants and the bars, if they can observe the 1-metre rule and find ways to make that make sense, then you will see that what we have is a London that can open. And what I've been doing throughout the last few days is to take people by the hand and lead them through the streets of London. I walk and walk and walk, and and you've been accompanying me. And if there are special places you'd like to go to, if there are places you'd like to see, do let me know. Because every morning I'm up at some ridiculous hour. We started this morning, nice and breath of fresh air, nice and early, at 4:44 here in glorious London. And I thought, good time. It is the Simon and Ian special, the Simon and Ian special. And the principle was this, is that I will go, look, there's a fox right ahead, have a look at that. An urban fox. Oh, it's coming towards us. Here's a bit of jeopardy for you. Those of you afraid of foxes, this is your moment. There he is. And you find a lot of these foxes in London. He's trying to get through the fence. So he's gone. And he's gone through the fence. He's a bit shy, a bit camera shy, that fox. I'll walk up towards him. If I get attacked, if I get savaged by a fox, you'll have to come and rescue me. Send help. Somewhere close to Regent's Park. We do, the wildlife here is wonderful. There are lots of foxes in London, and they rummage for the bins. But these are the glorious Nash buildings which circle the park. Some of the wonderful architecture that we have here in London. And the glory of this is that it's a little bit of paradise. I think even though we're in the heart of one of the busiest cities in the world, it is so beautifully peaceful and fantastic to sort of look around and say, actually, you feel as though you're alone in all of this. And what we've been doing, what we've really been doing, is just taking people directly into lots of different places. And a couple of days ago, at 1111, I always like my numbers, 1111, I took people round London, in particular to look at lots of Bee Gees related matters. We did the silent one, the Marceau version, thank you Elizabeth, that's very kind. There's a fox we saw, a bit of jeopardy on television, that's what they love, that scary moment. So we saw that fox. But we took, a couple of days ago, people by the hand and led them through the streets of London, and we took them round Bee Gees London. We showed them all things iconic with the Bee Gees. I had my good friend Mike Reed was with me, and we had RJ Gibb, who's a record producer, singer-songwriter, fantastic mentalist, but also the son of the late great Robin Gibb. And he's my business partner in a venture we have called KTT, which is Not the Truth, KNOT, Not the Truth. And what we basically look at is around the world, trying to make things make sense, where we should question everything, don't take things for granted. Let's look at the world in a slightly different way, because the reality is that things can be very different. And the number is 4. Well, you're very lucky, Elizabeth, because this today is the 444 special. We got up at 4:44. Well, I didn't get up at 4:44. I was already up years ago. 4:44 is late for me. But I got up and we started the live stream at 4:44, Sign of the Angels. And I've called this special the Simon and Ian special. And the reason for that, it's an anagram. Not a very difficult anagram, but anybody who can tell me the Simon and Ian special would be rather good. Now, Elizabeth has met Marcel Marceau and says he didn't have much to say. Da-da-da-da, boom, boom, everyone's a wiener. It's got to be good. Yeah, but he really did meet. Elizabeth really did meet him. They're fantastic people, and I get it. I know, and what's happening is a lot of these people are accessible. A lot of these people, especially in London and New York and various other places, you bump into all sorts of people on our journey. And what I try to do, as you're joining me on my walk, this is Gloucester Gate, what I try to do is introduce you to as many of my chums as possible, so you get a chance to see what's going on in the world, but also to understand that everybody's human. And I think the thing about this is that you realise there are some nice people and some not so nice people, and the reality is that everybody has good days and bad days and everything else. So what were the circumstances then, Elizabeth? You mentioned that you met Marcel Marceau. When and where? That's what we want to know. When and where did you meet Marcel Marceau? Because we have a lot of celebrities on this show. And we were talking about celebrities yesterday with the fantastic Ian Friedman, who's part of that revolutionary dynasty in entertainment, and it's probably the most powerful dynasty in entertainment in the UK, with the Grades, Leslie and Lou Grade, who they pioneered independent television in the 50s and 60s. And also we had Mike Reed was on the show, and he talked about his time in television. He talked about his time on Radio 1, the most powerful breakfast show for many years. But Ian Friedman is the nephew of Michael Grade, and we have that as a sort of principle. And Michael Grade, you will see, is, morning Sam, nice to see you. Lord Michael Grade, a powerhouse in television still to this day. But the Grades, they owned and controlled all things media in those days. And I was talking to Ian about that. We were talking to Ian about just the list of names that he had on. One of my favourite things is finding out about you lot. And Elizabeth met Marcel Marceau at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania stage, at the Heinz Hall, backstage at the concert. Marcel sang all of his favourite hits. It's got to be good. That sounds a brilliant concert. I love that. And what I love is that people will turn around and invite people backstage, and you get a chance to chat to them. Sometimes people are a bit exhausted before or after the show. They want to, before the show, prepare. After the show, they can be a bit exhausted. But you will find that you can get a few glorious moments together if you do look at that. And that's what we like to bring you, those glorious moments, because what I find is a lot of chums who come on the Andrew Eborn show, we have a chance to talk to them about what's going on in the world, to give their perspective of life and how it's important to them. And what I love is everything sort of works on that sort of basis. No, the great thing about all of the shows that we do, every show that we do, you'll be able to see again. The great thing, like a wonderful penny, it keeps returning. And you can, if you go and subscribe to Octopus TV. Morning, Lonnie. Nice to see you, Lonnie. Where are you from? Let us know where you're from in the comments below, because it's nice to see how many people around the world are joining me on my early morning walk here in the heart of London in Regent's Park. We've just got Regent's Park to the right. I took you past some of the iconic Nash buildings which hug Regent's Park. Big hug. We're coming up on the right hand side. We've got London Zoo, and a few days ago I took you, this is how this started, these live broadcasts, I took you to London Zoo because London is starting to open up, and as London opens up, so we try to encourage many people to come along and see what's going on. So London Zoo is here. I took lots of people to the zoo, and we saw lions, we saw tigers, we saw lots of monkeys, one particular monkey. And the reality is that all the keepers, I chatted to a few of them, they were telling me just how glorious it is to be back at work at the zoo, looking after the more keepers, obviously, as you get the general public coming back, get back to work. But what they're saying is that the animals actually missed people. So rather like your dog or your cat or your other pets at home, if you don't see them for a while, they miss you. So these lions and tigers were so delighted to see me after I hadn't seen them for a little while. The one thing which was missing, however, was anybody else, because I was the only one. And you'll see, go back and have a look, the London Zoo special that we did right here on Octopus TV. If you haven't signed up to Octopus TV, do that, because we have done during lockdown over 500, that's 500, can you believe it? 500 different interviews, 500 different videos with the great, the good and wonderful people. Anybody who's got a tale to tell, they're very, very welcome on the show. If you'd like to be on the show, or you've got some suggestions for guests, then do let me know. Write to me at lol, L-O-L, at octopustv.com, and we'll get you on the show, because what I love is hearing different people's tales, hearing how they cope in the world, and how people can benefit, because by listening to other people, that's how we get little tips on how to enjoy the fine things in our own lives. And that's why the more people I speak to, the better. So I'll chat to everybody, which is glorious. We're here on the Regent's Canal, and let's have a look. This is the Chinese gondola over there, which is a fantastic Chinese restaurant. We're closed at the moment, but it will be reopening. And over there is St Mark's Church. And over here on the canal we have the various riverboats. And if you're joining us, you're joining me live here in the heart of London. It's Andrew Eborn on The Breakfast Show. And it's going to be a thrilling day today. And what I love about this sort of site is that we've got over there behind me is Camden, and I took you up to Camden before. Tell you what, it's nice and bright and breezy. A lovely way of starting the day is actually to climb Primrose Hill. One of my usual things, because you can see right over London, and Primrose Hill is used regularly in the film and TV industry as a location because it's in the middle of all sorts of wonderful parklands, so you can't see too much of modern life. So lots of period pieces do use Primrose Hill. We're going to climb Primrose Hill together, scale that mountain, climb every mountain, as they say. It's got to be good. So yes, as I was saying, if you do want to be part of the show, do write into me. It is fantastic to have lots of different people from a diverse life coming and talking about their life, because it's by doing that that others get to benefit, others get to work out what's going on in the world. And morning, Alison, nice to see you. Always a thrill. You're joining me live here in the heart of London in Regent's Park, and we're just about to go up Primrose Hill to show you what it's like at this time of the morning. As I say, behind me is the London Zoo, and what I've done, if you'd like to join me, I'm going in a few days. I'll be going back to the zoo to see whether it's starting to open up for the people, because, as I say, the zoo itself is open, but there are so many people who are just staying away, not just from the zoo, but from retail and so on and so forth. And so when I went originally, I was about the only person there. And so what we did, we had a look at What a load of rubbish. It's always a shame, isn't it, when you get areas of natural beauty and people come along and just throw all their litter away. You know, it would be a fantastic way to take you through life if people didn't litter it. And we should encourage people. A wonderful, wonderful Julie Andrews indeed. Oliver Meach, good morning, Oliver. Oh no, it's a different Oliver. Hello, Oliver. Nice to see you. We're normally joined by many Olivers. Give us more Olivers, as they used to say in that fantastic musical. So, Oliver Masia, is that hopefully the correct pronunciation of your name? Let us know where you're all watching from, because we get people from all over the world, from Japan to Australia, all the way to Zambia, tuning in. And we've had people on the show, and this is what I've loved about it. The fact that we can enjoy life and all get together in a really exciting way and basically have a look at how we might be able to start the day together is really quite a thrill. So you're joining me live here in the heart of London. I always call it the lungs of London, because the parks give everybody the opportunity to breathe. And you can start the day in a fantastic way with the most glorious sounds. I do a lot in the music industry, as you know, and a lot of chums in the music industry. But some of the best music is what nature provides. And the sound of the bird song of a morning is one of the perfect ways to wake up. So you're joining me here in Breeze Hill. It's a little bit cooler today, which is nice actually, but it's been blisteringly hot here in sunny London. And the weather's been quite extraordinary, because people have been having thunderstorms and lightning, thunder and lightning. I love it. Anything dramatic, anything moody and magnificent is always a joy. So whatever you're doing around there, hello, wow, Zambia, it's true. So if you have a look at a lot of the videos on the main show on Octopus TV, over on YouTube, over on Dailymotion, follow, share, stalk, any and all of those. It'll be great to have you along. But we've done over 500 videos in this unprecedented time. And we went all the way to Australia and spoke about what's happening there and their approach to the pandemic, how they talked about all sorts of things. We also went all the way to Zambia, where my good friend Andy Chipling lives. And he got stranded over there. He's married. We had a tribal wedding, and he spoke about his life over there with his bride, and they have a new baby, a fine production, as I would always say. And apart from anything else, he gave us an insight into life. They both did. His lovely wife as well, Maureen, gave us an insight into life in Zambia in lockdown, and also about having a baby in Zambia and how all the families rally round. We talked about tribal weddings, which they had. We also spoke about all the interesting cultural references and how cultures varied a lot. And what I do enjoy is, as Elizabeth does, is filming nature. Filming nature is superb. Earlier on today we saw a fox. Those who here in the heart of London, if you see, look, London behind me is opening up. You can see some of the iconic places. There's the tower, the post office tower, and as we climb up a little bit further, climbing up this pure pleasure of a morning, we're hiking. It's always a thrill. The great way of keeping fit, as they all say, it's the Joe Wicks of the mind. It's got to be good. So we're walking all the way up here. And you have a chance to go everywhere, you're right. And I think that this is absolutely sensational. There is no better way of starting the day than everybody's just disappeared. We're all alone, and we get a chance to enjoy the best of the best I love the wood pigeons. They always look as though they've got these morning suits on, don't they? So you have all sorts of glorious pigeons in London. But the wood pigeon, as it's called, always looks very fine in his morning suit. There's a special way of strutting. I think if I came back as a pigeon, a wood pigeon would be a better one to do. And morning, AJ, all the way from Hong Kong. I'm going to get AJ on the show, actually, because it would be lovely to find out what is going on in Hong Kong. You join me here at the top of Primrose Hill as London is starting to open up. And this is one of those glorious places to see the skyline all the way from the west. Oh yeah, AJ's in Hong Kong, Elizabeth. It's always a thrill, and AJ's a regular on the show as well. We get AJ on, my good chum from many years ago. So if you have a look over there, you get a great skyline. That's the Tower of London, not the Tower of London, that's the Post Office Tower. Next to it is the London Eye, which was put up during the millennial celebrations. One of the most successful things, I was involved in the sponsorship of that with Fujifilm, who sponsored it. It was originally supposed to be just for 5 years, but 20 years on, it's still going strong, and it's one of the most popular tourist attractions. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as that opens up. And we can go along the skyline. You can see that there we have the Shard, and those of you who know Dynamo, he famously levitated above the Shard, which was glorious. Morning, Mike, how are you doing? Nice to see you. And we walk along here to the east of London, the East End, and you can see just over there is Canary Wharf. You can see the HSBC building and various other buildings in Canary Wharf, and you can go all the way over. It's a great place to see London as we open up. We're here in fantastic Primrose Hill, and I thought I'd make this. Mike Farrell, hey dude, look at you with your Beatles songs. I am up early, I'm always up early. We were here at 4:44 this morning. We started 4:44, a fantastic day. It's going to be a brilliant day ahead. And I thought what I'd do is I would start the day by bringing you up to the heart of London, which is going to be fantastic. And you can see it's an absolutely glorious city. I try to bring you the best of the best right here as we appear live on whenever I fancy it, really. But normally it's got to do that. All numbers are the same. So when I took you on the Bee Gees tour, we started at 1111, which is 1111, a couple of days ago on the 25th, and we did a marathon session. I walked around London I walked around for several hours since the very beginning, but you were live with me for about 6 hours, and I was accompanied by Mike Reed. For the first hour we did it in silence, as I say, the Marcel Marceau version, and we had lots of you with us. And then we put a soundtrack. Mike and I got together again yesterday, and we went through the whole thing and provided a wonderful comments and things like that, which is great. Elizabeth wants to go for a ride on the Eye. Hurrah! There you go. That's always be a joy. You'd love it. Absolutely love it. It's lots of fun. It goes very slowly, actually, if you do go on it, or when you go on it. And what you find is that you get to see right over London. And it probably is. Certainly one of the highest points you can go to. But also you can go up the Shard to have a look at that and a great view of London over there. But this Primrose Hill gives you a fantastic view of London, as you can see. And we've had a joy of doing that this morning. Whatever you're doing, let me know what you're doing. Put it in the comments and we can see what happens. And some of the films that are made here, well, lots. The King's Speech was made up here. We have 4 weddings and a funeral. You have lots of the iconic scenes in movies in London. If you have a look and think of an iconic scene where it's overlooking the whole of London, you'll be able to. That was done at the top of Primrose Hill, and simply because of that fantastic view. And the great thing which you can see, and again I'm showing this to you, it's deserted. So as a film crew, people are wondering about when you can get up there and when you can film. Well, this time is good. How about now? It's always my lovely thing when everybody talks about planning stuff. They always say, oh, well, when should we do this? When should we do this? And I very much am that carpe diem, that go fishing. Carpe diem, I love it. So what happens? You can do it now. Don't put off what you can do today to tomorrow. Because the reality is we may not be here tomorrow, and wouldn't that be sad? So I would rather live life that you grasp it by the nettle, you go out and do everything and make it make sense today, because so many things, it is unfinished business. And what I is grasping that and turning around and saying, look, let's try things. And what I love about this channel, Octopus TV, is that we can try things together. So we've been getting world experts on during these extraordinary times when there's been an unprecedented use of the word unprecedented. And what we find is that experts will come on and talk to us about their lives. And I think what happens, it makes a lot of sense, Live stream of the award. There we go. I'm getting an award for the live stream of the year. Is that woohoo? We should celebrate by doing a recorded version. What I love is that you do a live stream of the year award, and you get to see the highlights in being recorded. That would be a great idea. Start that up. Start that campaign. Get me gongs. I like presents. And speaking of presents, the 7th of July every year. It's so much fun. Happens to be my birthday, and you're all invited. It's going to be a fantastic day. We're going to be celebrating in style with the rich and famous and wonderful everyday folk will be joining me for my birthday on the 7th of July. Presents are already starting to flood in, and I'm a little kid at heart. Well, not even at heart, every ounce of me is a little kid, and we love that. We love the sort of principle that you just have fun, you know. I think there's no secret to life other than to have fun. Be who you are, because everybody else is taken, and I think the reality is exactly that. We're now coming over the bridge. I'm going to take you back through the park. That's the back of London Zoo, as we say. It is way too short. Grab the world, absolutely. Here we go. So I always show you the maps because then you can see where we are. So this is the map of Regent's Park, and if you have a look over here, it says we've been to Primrose Hill, and it says you are here. You are here with me, Andrew Eborn, right by Primrose Hill. And we walked all the way up. You can hear the bird song now. We're back in the park. And we walked all the way to the top of the hill, and we could look all over London. We saw St Mark's Church. We walked along by the zoo. We walked along the outside. We saw the fox. I wrestled a fox for you live on television. Wrestled that fox, and I survived. Whoa, lucky me. The things I do to keep you entertained. It's always a thrill. There is nothing I wouldn't do. Crossing the road with the bird song, we can see over there, this is the Regent's Canal, and over there, this looks very good. You can see all the way on Regent's Canal that way, and that's the London Zoo, and you can hear the bird song. Absolutely beautiful start to the morning, and you can see the zoo. The great thing about the zoo is that it's accessible from the road as well. So some of the animals, this is where they live, the pigs, the hairy hogs, that's where they live, just over there. So I'm going to take you now through, which way would you like to go? Do you want to go past the American ambassador's home, or you want to go straight to the park and you can see the boating lake? The choice is yours. The first person who responds will get the choice. You can go to the American ambassadors, or we can go straight ahead to the park, and otherwise I will make the decision for you and we can sort that out. Let's have a look. And we're going to go along here then. The park is open. I think we go through the park then, because I can show you. This is the running track. And the thing about the running track is that anybody can come up here. There's squirrels. There's a little squirrel, bit of wildlife. There we are. Playing hide and seek, there it is. Must be fun being a squirrel, wouldn't it? Absolutely love it. You know, you wag your tail and you're off. They all seem so happy. I've never seen a depressed squirrel. They don't sort of sit in the corner and mope, do they? it does affect everybody. And it's one of the things we do, that you'll always hear me talking about mental health, because mental health is one of those sort of passions that I have. That I do think that we should be the generation that talks about mental health, so we can remove the stigma of mental health. And I think the more that we talk, the more that we realise that people are the same world over, and they have issues and they have challenges. And what I like to do is to talk to people about those challenges. I get lots of people on the show will talk to me about the issues that affect them, and by sharing in a caring way, we realise that we are all the same and that people are not alone. And I think if you are struggling at the moment, I know many of you are, take comfort in the fact that there are others who are going through the same thing, and they found some coping mechanisms. And what I've been doing on the Andrew Eborn show on Octopus TV is to talk to people about some of those coping mechanisms. So we've had people about meditation, we've had shaman on, we've had yoga, but also doing activities, just going for a walk in the great outdoors, which is free. It's available to everybody in the same way as I take you along on my walks. You'll find it will just free your mind, and your mind will put things in perspective, because so often reality and perspective are not aligned. And I always encourage people to talk, to question everything. It's jaw, not war. So many fights happen, and you see it all the time in business, in pleasure, in personal relationships. People are fighting all the time. And I think if people talk, you'll understand the other person's perspective, and by understanding the other person's perspective, you can correct it or encourage them to say, actually, that is a misunderstanding, and if we talk about it, this is what I really meant to make that make sense. And I think the more we can talk, the more we can resolve things. And I would always encourage people to do that. And try and be fair. People say, it's the big phrase at the moment, be kind. I think absolutely be kind, but also be fair. I think sometimes in life is not fair itself, but if we have a way of helping people and supporting them in their own hour of need, I think that the world would be a better place. And that's what we're trying to do right here on Octopus TV. We will bring you the best of the best everyday folk who will talk about their issues, who will talk about their challenges and how they've managed to cope in these extraordinary times. And talking of guests, yesterday I had a fantastic guest. I had the wonderful Ian Friedman, and he's from an absolutely powerful dynasty, probably actually the most powerful dynasty in entertainment here in the UK. He was part of the Grade. We had Michael Grade, who is still going strong, but Leslie and Lou Grade, who dominated the entertainment industry here in the UK in the 50s, 60s, 70s. They were there at the birth of independent television, and we chatted to Ian about his life and his extraordinary upbringing. I mean, when he was 8, to give you an example, he would have, a lot of people have magicians. I know we have magicians around the world who perform, or when they're allowed to, they get back online and then they can perform. His magician, when he was 8 years old, was Tommy Cooper. And we love Tommy Cooper. It's my favourite magician. Probably the most famous, not just magician, but the most famous comedian in the country at the stage. So he had him on his 8th birthday. And he would regularly go along to the Palladium, and for his birthday parties he would sit in the royal box with his chums watching the latest stars. They would come round to dinner. But he was also telling me about the tragic side as well. So if you've seen the movie Stan and Laurel, Bernie Delfont, who was his uncle, appears in that, a key character in the entertainment world. He also appears in the movie Judy. Have any of you seen Judy? About Judy Garland, a real tragic soul. And Bernie Delfont was played by Michael Gambon in Judy. And Ian was telling us about the night that Judy gave her last performance. And talking of mental issues, I mean, Judy was a troubled soul, a fantastic talent. And when she performed at her best, it was sensational. And I think the interesting thing is that because of the challenges of the industry that we live in, and because of the challenges of performing and the image that you have to portray all the time, what happens is that Judy was a victim of the industry, and a real tragic loss on that final performance at the Talk of the Town. She turned up late, she wasn't in the best state, and the audience got grumpy. The audience booed and threw things and didn't treat her with the respect she deserved. And the sad reality is that a day or so later she was found dead. And the sad personification, if you like, of what it means when you have these demons and you don't have a chance to have people to talk about it, to help you through it. So if ever there was a lesson there, I think that's it. And Judy, do look at that episode. It's going to be released today at 7:07 when I'm with Ian Friedman. And we talk about lots of positive stuff as well. There's lots of, I mean, it's a positive message. Like, even in negative messages, you can have a positive side. And the positive side is that let's learn the lessons of history. We always say history repeats itself. And yet the point is, and what I always say, is that we never learn those lessons. And you're right that Judy was controlled by the studio heads. And that is what happens, is because you become a victim, you become a product. It's like being baked beans. And I think we've got to stop treating people like commodities and start treating people with respect and the respect that they deserve. So Judy, a tragic figure. Do watch out, 7:07 this morning. I do release things at funny times. They're all suitable numbers. And you'll find that that will happen. So this morning we started at 4:44 on my morning walk through Regent's Park. And I'm delighted that you are joining me for that. As I said, with funny numbers, we had 1-1, 1-1 for the Bee Gees and the wonderful tour that we had there. And the reason I picked 1-1, 1-1 is because the Bee Gees had more number ones than virtually anybody other than the Beatles. And what happened is, so 1-1, 1-1 seemed appropriate. We started out outside their studios, IBC, where they recorded many of their early albums. And what happened is that we then took you on a tour. We went to the places, the landmarks in the Bee Gees' life. So we looked at places like the Langham Hotel, where they used to hold a lot of their press conferences. And that was right next door to the BBC. So I took you into the BBC and we had a little tour there. We looked at both the BBC television and also BBC radio, where Radio 1. And I was joined by the Radio 1 broadcaster, Mike Reed, who did the breakfast show for many years and also did Top of the Pops several times, as well as Saturday Superstore and various other things. And what happens is we then went from the BBC all the way over to another crunch, you know. And may that be the only crunch in your life in these troubling times. But there's something about a crunch, isn't there? So this is over Regent's Park now. And Regent's Park totals over 395 acres. And Regent's Park and Primrose Hill, where I took you to earlier, they're outstanding places to enjoy wildlife. We have nearly 1,400 recorded species. And it's basically a site of metropolitan importance for nature conservation. And it's one of the best bird watching, all you little bird watchers out there, it's one of the best bird watching places in London. They've got over 211 species. And these are other wildlife. They benefit from the food and shelter provided, because it's all a natural habitat. And it's carefully managed. You'll notice that we go through very fine places to have a look at that sort of side. And it's very well managed. And there's also the two lakes contain extensive wetlands and reed bed areas. And there's a spectacular heronry over there on the island. And the heronry looks fantastic. So what happens is they have 22 pairs of grey heron nesting each year. And in addition to that, these glorious plant species, they've got over 400 plant species and more than 500 insects, invertebrates. So we're looking over there. Fantastic. It is good. John, yes, it's a short weather. I think I'm forever the optimist. I will wear my shorts to encourage the sun out, because I guess it's rather like if you take an umbrella, they say it won't rain, but I guess hopefully not. The reverse is not true. And if you wear your shorts, it should be nice and sunny. But yes, get a bit of air around the nether regions is not a bad idea on a day like this. So here we are, we're here in the heart of Regent's Park. And just listen to the bird song. absolutely stunning. As I say, it's one of the best ways of waking up of a morning. Over there we have the mosque, the central London mosque, and it's got a fantastic chandelier. Behind there is the American ambassador's home, Winfield House. And Winfield House, oh wait, no, this is a wood pigeon, and this is for me is the sound of the summer. And the sound of the summer is quite extraordinary. I think wood pigeons, growing up, that was always good. The Boathouse Cafe, you can come and rent your boats here. Which is a joy. So we can go boating on the river. Many a happy time boating on the river. We can hire them out. There we go, rowing and boats available. Standard tariff, £10.50 an hour, all the way until October. But not at the moment. That will be opening up gradually. But some glorious flowers in the park and the wonderful settings that they have. Talking about socially distancing, now all the people, they've all measured these, the poor people, they've all measured them to be, there we go, over here, and that is exactly 2 metres. They're going to have to move those, fairly surely. I reckon they'll keep them 2 metres and say that the government said, look, do 2 metres if you can. So I can't see anybody changing their stickers anytime soon. But they do say that for retail and various other places, encourage people back, that where it's not possible to do 2 metres, then 1 metre. 1 metre will be fine. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen about that, because I've been taking you around London and you've been watching that actually the reality is that whilst London is opening up all the time, the reality is that Londoners and those outside of London, nobody's really coming in to see things. So I think the reality is that we need to encourage people. And as you join me, I took you to the Nike store yesterday, Nike, and we went in, and the pictures on the news were of it being incredibly busy. And the reality is there was nobody there. And it was the same in Hamleys, the most famous toy shop, one of the most famous toy shops in the world, certainly one of the largest. And he went in there and saw some people demonstrating, and again there was nobody there. So here we are, there's a little bit of formation swimming going on here. Clever way of just sort of picking up breakfast. I like the idea of just foraging for your breakfast. Morning! I used to love the moorhens, so it's all very good. Over there, I have a private residence in the park. Every year, all these places will open up and you get a chance to go in. I'll take you with me. When I get invited round, you're very welcome to join me. They always say that birds of a feather stick together. Well, here we are. Look, you're joining me live where there's murder most foul, because look at that. Outrageous. The seagull has found some breakfast. One of the crustaceans in the bank. Giving a good clean. Want to make sure your food's clean of a morning. Yeah, rinse well. You look, he's got a little crustacean. We talk about the beaches nobody wear. I'm going to go over the weekend to see my mother, who's down by the beach. And I think the reality in the parks are not crowded. Well, you're here, you've seen it in the park. So when I'm there, I can show you the reality. Here are the ducks. So look, see, it's plucking. It can pluck its breakfast out of the water. Gives it a good rinse every morning. Very good, very healthy. It's a good way of making sure you can have a fresh breakfast. It's a seafood diet. I have a seafood diet. I see food and I eat it. Hey, thank you. There we are. See, he's a fine, fine fella. And he's there, over there. Okay, we'll leave him in peace as we go along here. And Canada Day is coming up very soon. Come along now, here are some of the Canadian geese on the 1st of July. And these do lots of the live streaming for my good friends in Canada Day. Get the pancakes out, show us your pancakes. We love all of those. Flipping good, as we say. It's always a thrill. And over there, it's like a scene out of Jurassic Park with the number of Canadian geese. And they do say that birds of a feather flock together. Well, it is extraordinary that they do exactly that, because this is like we're now going through the Canadian geese enclave. Here's the guard of the Canadian geese. How you doing? He's got a bit of a limp, poor chap. And let's over here. I love lobster. Yes, I know. Lobster thermidor is one of my favourite. It's always a joy. So we're here in the park. We're looking at this sort of site. Look how many of these Canadian geese getting ready for Canada Day. And every year, just off Trafalgar Square, we have the Canadian Embassy, and I've had the honour of working with them for several years. We've streamed events for them. We've done live streaming, various live events to make that work for them. And that's always a thrill. And over here we have, let's see how many Canadian geese. There's a whole flock of geese, a flocking geese. That's what we want. And over by the pond we get some of the swans starting their day as well. Morning. Oh yes, you're fine. So you're joining us at 5:46. We've been live for over an hour now. We started at 4:44. We've just done 5:55. And there are so many geese. You're right, Elizabeth. We have so many different species. I'd say over 211 species of wildfowl are here. And if you just look over there, it's a scene out of Jurassic Park. There they all come. They're all coming towards me. It's like rush hour here in the park. You're witnessing as you come forward. I'm taking my life into my own hands for the entertainment of the great public worldwide. We go in amongst the geese, and you can see they're getting ready for their day. And just so many. So these are Canadian geese. They have these fantastic formations. I did a wonderful thing with Panasonic. I negotiated some of the deals for them, and what happened, we did this wonderful formation. One of the things for Panasonic, if you see these geese flying, and there was the sad story of some of the geese, the goslings, who had lost their parents. They were orphaned, and they didn't know, because normally when you wake up you follow your parents and you fly in formation behind them. And so what happened, this person used to have a little microlight plane. I don't know if you've seen this film. It's a microlight plane, and what they have, a little bit of clickbait over here. Go on, I'll take you over because I can see the youngsters getting, oh look at that vicious one. You see it attacked. It attacked. They're so angry, it's got so much grass to nibble at. I mean, they get very greedy, it's like people. But they follow the microlight plane, they all flew in formation. Now here's a bit of extra clickbait for you, because here are the youngsters, new life starting here in London, with the geese and the goslings, and they've been prolific this year. The next generation of babies, they're all here. They're all ready. Now look at the parent. She's determined to make sure I don't get too close. She will attack me. And where the fox left bits of me, she'll get the rest. I love it. It's all happening here live on Octopus TV. You're joining me, Andrew Eborn, on my morning walk through London. And this is a little bit of clickbait. Anything fluffy and cute will get them all going. So wonderful stuff. Right, we're going to head over here. Tell you what, you're so wonderful to have you along this morning. I'll give you an extra treat. We go back through the Rose Garden. If you'd like to have a look at the Rose Garden, I can take you through there. And the other good news today, apart from speaking with Ian Friedman, so look at that, it's 7:07 this morning. It's 5:49 as we speak, so not too long to wait, but 7:07 we'll be releasing the Ian Friedman video to the world. And I think the reality is that it looks as though a lot of the entertainment business, we're talking about the future of that and how AI, artificial intelligence and holograms, and lots of areas I'm involved with, how that's going to help dominate the landscape over the next several years. And we're having a look at that sort of side to see if that can make sense. And the reality is that we have new ways of consuming entertainment where we play with all of the senses. And because in this social distance time, it's probably the best way to introduce people to this new technology. Because the principle is exactly that, is that you have a chance to experience life in a very different way. So we can bring you some of the best, the superstars who you've always wanted to see. You want to see Elvis play live, you want to see the Beatles play live. Morning, Ryan. We can organise that all through holograms to give you that experience. And the great thing about holograms is that you can combine the hologram with live performers. So what happens is you feel as though you're at the real concert. You feel as though you're having the fantastic experience. And you feel as though you really are there with them live on stage. So Octopus TV and a lot of our partners in KTT, we're looking at doing exactly that. Some of the great and the good, we will resurrect them and bring them for your viewing public so they can be enjoyed by new generations. We're also finding ways to increase your interaction where with haptics you can feel as though you're actually there. So sensational time to be coming forward in entertainment as the world is changing into a different place. I'm just going to walk you up through here. It looks as though today there may be a little bit of rain, but we don't care about things like that. We like to be nice and snug, enjoying the world all through the eyes of somebody else. Here in the States, musicians are starting to perform in drive-in theatres. Yes, well, we're having the same here in the UK. These drive-in theatres are certainly the way. They get a certain amount of space. Morning, Jean-Charles. Nice to see you. So all of the people in the UK, we're looking at ways of bringing entertainment back. And these drive-in theatres where people can watch from the comfort of their car or just in their little space beside it, means that you get a chance to see the performance. And in fact, we broke that story. About the drive-in theatres right here on Octopus TV. I had my great friend Toya, the fantastic artist. She came on, and she was sort of saying that, talking about these concerts and how people would do that side. And we were looking at holograms for that. I mean, also Tiny Temper was on the news, and it was quite controversial because he went on a program called GM, Good Morning Britain, and what happened is Piers Morgan, a great broadcaster, but very confrontational sometimes. He likes, as P.T. Barnum said, nothing draws a crowd like a fight. So Piers is the master of getting people riled. Maybe that's the best way of putting it. And it's good to ask the questions which need to be asked. I fully support that, as you know. But he was Tiny Temper, went on Good Morning Britain to talk about the new drive-in concerts. And instead it got changed to another, obviously very important issue, but the focus was changed from what he was there as a really great story and a positive story, to that, and Tiny Temper swore on national television, and and basically got cut out in the edit. It seems to be, I couldn't see it online other than little clips. But it was a shame really, because Tiny wasn't given the opportunity to speak. And I know he was asked to comment on important issues, and I get that, but the reality is that that's why it's always important to think how your guests feel. Tiny Temper felt that he was being deliberately led down a certain path which he didn't want to go to at that particular occasion. He had plenty to say on the subject, but he didn't want to on that particular occasion because he was there to promote another message, and that message was one of positivity. It was one of going out and saying, look, we can all come together at these new concerts that we're talking about. So you're joining me now in the Rose Garden, which is beautiful. What's sad, however, is that lots of people came here yesterday, and look at the rubbish they've left. You know, it's you would think that these glorious parks that we have here in London, that people would it is a bit of a shame. Well, not a bit of a shame, it's a huge shame. And we shouldn't allow it. It's people should turn around, treat it like your backyard. And this is my backyard. This is where I walk every morning. And as I say, you're welcome to join me. Today we started at 4:44, and I think the reality is that you joined me. And we like to surprise people with different numbers. So one of the surprises that I got yesterday was a proof copy of a book, and a rather special book. It's called the Andrew Eborn Book of Failure, and it's a publication which is going to be released on my birthday on the 7/7. I say all numbers are there. It's got 101 pages, 111 pages, and it's all about the glorious failures. It's a series that I've been writing in a number of publications. I've been writing for various newspapers and other media on failure, and I always say that people always shine a spotlight on success, but very rarely talk about the failures that led to that success. So I always say that if necessity is the mother of invention, then failure is the father of success. So that's my book. Andrew Eborn's Book of Failure is coming out on the 7th of July. It's available in all good bookshops, and even in some dodgy ones as well. So lots of fun. Thank you very much to everybody who's been joining me this morning. We started nice and early. We started at 4:44. We're now in the heart of Regent's Park. Behind me, this will get you going, we have the waterfalls, which is always a joy. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Do go over to Octopus TV. Do subscribe to Octopus TV on YouTube. Do follow me on Daily Motion. Do stalk me anywhere else. We'll be doing lots of these live broadcasts throughout the coming days, throughout the coming weeks. And it sounds exciting because I think the world is starting to open up. The world is starting to look like a better place. And together we can ensure that we get the best of everything. If you have any guests, then do let me know. If you want to write to me at lol, that's LOL, at octopustv.com. If you'd like a copy of my book, Andrew Eborn's Book of Failure, you want it personalised, you can drop me a line at failure@octopustv.com. Do it now before you forget. This has been the lesson for today. It's about carpe diem. It's about doing everything, especially for you. Because that's what this is about. This is the reality of the glorious gardens here in Regent's Park, where you can see the smell of the roses is just divine. And what I love about that sort of stuff is when we talk about the world and the world being troubled, yes it is, but you can get through all sorts of positive things as well with a little bit of charisma, a little bit of charm, a little bit of what life feels good. But the roses here, they just smell absolutely fantastic. Smell that is a glorious way to wake up. Westminster pink. Adriana. And we're lucky here. We're getting the best of the dawn chorus. This is why I took you at 4:44 this morning. I took you through all these different places. And it is absolutely glorious. So I want to thank you for joining me this morning. It's always a pleasure to see you. If you'd like to be on the show, you've got any views on the topics discussed, any suggestions for guests, people you'd like to come on the show with me, do write to me, Andrew Eborn, at Octopus TV, and I will make sure that we continue to bring you some of the finest things that the world can offer, some of the finest guests from around the world. But most of all, what I love is that you can join me right here on Octopus TV. Do go along now, subscribe to Octopus TV on YouTube. Make sure you follow me on everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, you twit face, as they say. You can find me everywhere. It's at Andrew Eborn, at Octopus TV. But for now, have a fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Lots of love, be good, see you then, bye.